Today's daf we're going to be learning is Sotah daf lamed vav. We're going to get started right at the top, the first line. Bo u're'eh kama nisim na'asu b'oto hayom. We're now going to go through a list of all the miracles that happened on the day the Jews crossed into the Jordan. Most of this is going to be review from things that we've already discussed. Avru Yisrael et HaYarden, that in and of itself was a miracle, which we already know, that they crossed the Jordan. Ubau lahar Gerizim, or lahar Eival, yeter mishishim mil. It was more than 60 mil away. Okay, what is 60 meals? So generally they say one meal is a walk that people could do in about 18 minutes. And it's kind of like a mile. And then if you calculate that, okay, one meal times 18 minutes times 40, you get to the fact that an average day you can walk 40 meal. Actually an interesting calculation because it basically comes out to 12 hours a day. It means like you're walking straight all the daylight hours because they assumed, normally a daylight like a sha'od zmaniyot we've learned is based on the 12-hour day, which would mean you'd be walking the whole entire day. Here, obviously, they didn't walk the whole day because they crossed over the Jordan, they built an altar, they wrote the Torah on stones, they celebrated. We're going to see all sorts of things they did, and yet they still covered, right? It's 2 Har Gerizim and Har Eival, which was 60 mil, and they went back to Gilgal, so it's really incredibly miraculous. Nobody stood before them. And anyone who would try to stand before them would, out of fear, start having diarrhea. That's at least how people explain nitraz. Okay, these are psukim that basically God is saying, I'm going to put the fear of God into the people when you go into the land. And the fear of God will be upon them. So they say that means that they would get sick out of fear. Okay, we're now going to darshan these words from Kriyat Yam Suf, from the splitting of the sea, and then the Jews saying Shirat Hayam. And in there it says, until Ad Yavor Amcha Hashem, until the nation goes through, and Ad Yavor Amzukanita, and until it passes through the nation that you acquired. So they say that this is actually not a reference to crossing over the Yam Suf. It's actually a reference to crossing over into the land of Israel. And there were 2 times they did that. One was in the time of Yoshua when they conquered the land, and one was in the time of Ezra and Nehemiah when they came back to the land. And now they're going to contrast them. So they say, Ad Yavor Amcha Hashem, that's Bi'al Rishonah, the first time they came into the land. Ad Yavor Amzukanita, Zo Bi'ashniya. That's the second time. And more me'ata, you can infer from the way they're saying it at Shirat Hayam, they were supposed to go into the land in the same way they went in the first time. But they didn't actually, right? They came, they were still under foreign rule. It was pretty complicated, right? They stopped the building of the wall at a certain point, right? They had to fight against all sorts of things, which in the time of Joshua, they basically conquered and they became the rulers of the land. Whereas in that time, they were under the rule of somebody else the second time. So it was very different, but they should have. It's just they sinned, and because of that, they lost that right, or they lost the ability to do that. Back to our story. We got a little sidetracked. They brought the stones. We're still back to all the miracles that happened. They built the altar. Saduhu b'seed. They covered it in a limestone. They wrote the Torah in 70 languages. It seems to match Rabbi Shimon. First they put the seed, then they wrote the Torah. As it says, okay, a lot of things. They did sacrifices. Olot, they go up all the way to God. Shlamim, which are we eat the meat of. Then they ate and drank and were happy. They blessed and cursed. That means they did the blessings and the curses, right, on the mountains. There's different explanations of kiplu. Some people say it's kalfu. You switch the letters. Kalfu is they scratched off all the limestone. Some people say it's that they kind of packed up, like lekapel is to fold up. They unfolded the altar, basically. They took it apart, and ba'u velanu b'Gilgal, and took them back with them, and then slept in Gilgal. Shene'amal, as it says, v'avartem otam imachem, because it says, and you'll take them with you, v'nachtem otam b'malon, and you will leave them in the place where you're sleeping. Yachol b'chol malon u'malon. You might have thought, we saw this drasha already, every place where they slept from then on, they would carry them with them. No. It says the place where you're going to sleep this night. Uchtiv, and it also says that is right, that they took from the Jordan, Hikim Yoshua Gilgal. They don't tell you the rest of the pasuk, but it's Yoshua established in Gilgal, which means that they stayed in Gilgal and they didn't go anywhere beyond that, right? The point of the stones was to be in Gilgal to always remember this. Tana. Now we're going to have a braita again talking about when they went into the land. Tzira'ah lo avraimahim. Okay, what's the tzira'ah? Tzira'ah is translated, I think, as a hornet. So the Torah talks about this hornet that's going to come with the Jewish people. Okay, in Shemot Kaf Gimel it says, "V'shalachti et hatzira'ah lefanecha." I'm going to send it in before you. And it will help you kind of to chase away your enemies when you go into the land. But according to this braita, the tzira'ah did not go with them into the land. To which the Gemara says, "V'lo, how could you say it didn't?" Says God's going to send the tzira'ah before us. It sounds like it went into the land. It stood on the edge of the Jordan, on the other side, meaning not the side of Israel. And it kind of shot across like a poison type of thing. It caused blindness in the people. And it caused them not to be able to have children down below. So it did above their eyes, it blinded, and then it kind of blinded, so to speak, there, it caused them to be sterile. So now we're going to see, where do we get this from? Because it says, I destroy the Emori from before you. Asher kegova arazim gofo, their height is like the height of the cedars. V'chasonhu ka'alonim, and it's strong like the oak trees. V'ashmid piryo mimal v'shorashav mitachat. Now we'll destroy his fruits from above and his roots from below. So now they say the above is the eyes and the below is causing them to be sterile. Rav Papa Amal, a different explanation. It did actually cross into the Jordan with them, but there were two different types of tzraot. There was one of Moshe and one of Yoshua. The Moshe lo aval, Yoshua aval. The one of Moshe didn't pass the Yarden, but the one of Yoshua did. So that was just an aside we got to in terms of the day they conquered, what kind of went with them, what didn't go with them. Did the tzira'ah go? Did it not go? Next. Shishash Fatim alu l'rosh Har Gerizim. So now you have to read the pasuk, okay? According to Yoshua Perek Chet pasuk Lamed Gimel, it says, Chetzio el mul Har Gerizim, half went to Har Gerizim, V'ha-chetzio, and the other half, Emul Har Eival. Okay, so we have those that, if you remember, the ones facing Har Gerizim means they were on Har Gerizim facing the mountain. They were a little bit lower down from the peak, and they were facing toward the peak. And the ones on Har Eival were facing Har Eival from also lower down. But there's something weird about the pasuk. The pasuk says half were on Har Gerizim, and the half was on Har Eival. Why does it say and the half? Should have just said half was here and half was there. So they're going to have my ve'ha-chetzio. Why does it say by Har Eival and the half? Amar Rav Kahana. Kederach shechalukim kan, kach chalukim ba'avnei efod. Rav Kahana says this comes to teach you that the way they were split on the mountains is the same way. Ve'ha-chetzio comes to add something else. It's the same way that they were split on the efod. What's the efod? On the shoulder of the Kohen. He had one stone on one shoulder, one stone on the other, called the efod. And on each stone was written the 6 tribes in a particular order. So comes Rav Kahane and he says the splitting of the, right, and probably the order were done exactly as it was on the mountains. Okay, so here we're going to share screen and we're going to show you, okay, the order here. We're going to have a whole big debate about the order. So in Har Gerizim, we have Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar, Yosef, and Binyamin. Okay, I'm not going to look at everything inside, but you can see this all in the psukim that are below. Tvarim, Kaf Zayin, Yubed, and Yud-Gimel. It says exactly who was on which mountain. Okay, so you can see that below. So it's Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar, Yosef, and Binyamin. On Har Eival was Reuven, Gad, Asher, Zvulun, Dan, and Naphtali. So according to this, that should be the way it appears on the efod. So I'm on the first side of the chart, the one to the right. Now, what we're going to basically do is we're going to see, you can already see from the chart, we're going to have a braita that contradicts this entirely, because what does Rav Kahane say? This is exactly the way it was split on the efod. We're now going to have a braita that has two opinions, Tanakama and Rabbi Hanina ben Gamliel, who each have totally different orders, not the same people, not the same order on the efod. And then we're going to say, Rav Kahane, you must be wrong. And then we're going to have to say, what does V'chetzio teach us, if not Rav Kahane, because obviously it doesn't teach us Rav Kahane, because Rav Kahane is clearly wrong because of this braita. So Meitive, bringing a contradiction from a braita. Okay, now we're describing the efod. He had two nice, special stones on his shoulders. One on one side, one on the other. And the names of the 12 tribes were written on them. Shisha levenzo v'shisha levenzo, 6 here, 6 there. Shne'amal, it says in the pasuk, right? This is in Sefer Shmot. Shisha mishmotam ala even ha'achat. And then it says ve'et shmot ha'shisha notarim ala even ha'shenit. Okay, there's a big word here. Kitoldotam. Okay, so now kitoldotam, notice, comes on the second one. Okay, so now kitoldotam means the order of birth. So they say here, shniya kitoldotam v'lo lishona kitoldotam. The order was order of birth, but only on the second ones. That's why kitoldotam comes only after the second. And then mipnei, why is that? She Yehuda mukdam. Okay, we basically have everything according to order. It's all birth order, other than on the first one, we start with Yehuda because Yehuda was the leader. So we start with Yehuda, then we go to Reuven, Shimon, Levi. We're now going in birth order. Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Yisachar, Zvulun, Yosef, Binyamin. Okay, that's the order. So that's what the Tanakhama says. V'chamishim otiyot hayu, there were 50 letters. 25 letters on each one. Okay, you can do the count and see. Actually, the first one's very easy because Yehuda is 5, Reuven is 5, Shimon is 5, Naphtali is 5. And then Levi and Dan together are 5. So you get to 25. Okay. This one's a little, it's less easy to do at a glance, but you could also figure it out pretty easily. Although we're going to raise a problem. Was it really 50? And we're going to get to that later. Rabbi Hanina ben Gamliel Omer, moving now to Amud Bet. Lo kederech shechalukim b'chumash hapkudi u'chalukim b'avnei ha'efod. The order of the efod is not the way it's listed in the beginning of Sefer Bamidbar. Okay, the beginning of Sefer Bamidbar has a list. These are the people that are going to, right, they start talking about the camps and how people are camped and all that. And they go through a list of all the names, right, of the heads of the people. And they start Reuven, Shimon, Yehuda, Yisachar, Zvulun, Yosef, Binyamin, Dan, Asher, Gad, and Naphtali. Okay, so that's the order. He says not that order. Okay, so that I put here on the chart, Seder Bamidbar. You have Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar, Zvulun. Those are all Leah's sons. Then we have Yosef and Binyamin, Rachel's sons, and then we have the 4 shvachot, right? The 4 sons of the shvachot, of the maids, right? Dan, Asher, Gad, and Naphtali, of Zilpah and Bilhah. So now he says, that's not the order. Chalukim avnei efod, and the efod, it wasn't according to that order. Ela kederech shechalukim b'chumash sheni. But the way it was listed when they went to Egypt. Okay, in the beginning of Sefer Shmot, it says, Ela Shmot b'nei Yisrael ba'im Mitzrayim. Yaakov Ishu Beito Ba'u, Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar, Zvulun, Binyamin, Dan v'Naftali, Gad, Asher. Notice Binyamin is very out of order here, right? Although it actually is similar in a sense to Bamidbar because it has Binyamin coming, right? It has sons of Leah, then son of Rachel. Okay, why is Yosef not there? Because Yosef is already in Mitzrayim. Then we have Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, and then the next pasuk, which I forgot to quote here, okay, but I forgot to bring it on your sheet. But after it lists all the people coming to Mitzrayim, the next pasuk is Vayikol Nefesh Yotei Yerech Yaakov Shevim Nefesh. All the people who left Egypt were 70. But Yosef Hayab in Mitzrayim, and Joseph was already in Egypt. So now what do we have? We have Yosef is at the end, and that's what he said is the order of what we have. So we have now, let's go back. Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar, Zvulun, all of Leah's children. Binyamin first, then we have the Shvachot, right? Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, and then Yosef. Okay, that's what we're going to read inside. Hitzad, B'nei Leah Kesidran, the sons of Leah, exactly in the order of birth. B'nei Rachel, Echa Mikan ve'Echa Mikan, one at the beginning, one at the end, which is Binyamin at the beginning, Yosef at the end. U'B'nei Shvachot be'Enza. Okay, so that's our order, and the servant, right, the maidservant's sons in the middle. So now they say, if that's the case, though, elamani makayem kitoldotam. Why does it say in the order of birth, right? Which we assume kitoldotam means in the order of birth, and this is not in the order of birth. Tishmotan shekara lahem avihem, v'lo kashemot shekara lahem Moshe. You might not have known this, but sounds like Moshe called the tribes by something different than Yaakov called them. So they say kitoldotam means the way they were when they were born, what they were called by their father, and not what they were called by Moshe. So what do we mean here? Reuven velo Reuveni, Shimon velo Shimoni, Dan velo Hadani, Gad velo Hagadi. Okay, so now they say, what it means is sometimes in the Torah they're referred to as Shimoni, okay, lemishpachat Shimoni, lemishpachat Hagadi, okay, where they call them from the house of Shimon. So what they're saying, when you write the names on the efod, you write it in their birth name and not the way they're sometimes referred to in the Torah as Shimoni or Reuveni, etc. In any case, now this is the end of the braita. So we get back to why did we quote this braita? Tiyuvta de Rav Kahana, tiyuvta. Basically, the question of Rav Kahana stands, which is neither opinion splits it the way they were split on Har Eival and Har Gerizim. So, elamai v'hachetzio. So we're left back with our original question. Why does it say v'hachetzio? Kana chetzio mul Har Gerizim merube mishchetzio shel Har Eival. When it says v'hachetzio, it's to say that this half is different from the first half. The first half had more people. Mipnei shel Levi lemata. Why is this? Because Levi was at the bottom. First of all, where's Levi? Levi's at Har Gerizim. Okay, so something about this line is going to make absolutely no sense. Just again, let's remind you, who's at Har Gerizim? Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar, Yosef, and Binyamin. So the two important people for our purposes now are Levi and Yosef. You'll see why in a minute. So what they say is, Ve'hachetzio of Har Eival is coming to tell you they were less people than on the other mountain. Since, and this is going to make no sense, it's going to be counterintuitive, since Levi was at the bottom. Now, if you remember, Levi in the middle of the two mountains were the Kohanim and the Leviim. But Levi was also on Har Gerizim. So how does that work? Well, some of Levi was on Har Gerizim and some were at the bottom, which would mean actually there's less people at Har Gerizim because you don't have a full tribe. So what they seem to be saying is exact opposite. There's more people on Har Gerizim. So, and because Levi is on the bottom, that makes absolutely no sense, which is what the Gemara says. It should be the exact opposite. Since Levi's at the bottom, they should be actually less people, and Har Eival should be more people. So Hakikama, this is what it meant to say. Misreading. Af al pi Levi lamata. Even though Levi's at the bottom, and you might have thought that Har Gerizim had less people, b'nei Yosefi mahen, but they had Yosef with them, and Yosef's tribe was huge. How do we know this? Well, we're going to see how we know it. But even without that, Yosef in general is split into two tribes, Ephraim and Manasseh, because they were, one of the reasons is because they were so big. And we're going to see that they were really huge, Shene'emal. So we're basically saying the fact that we had less of Levi was made up for by the fact that there were more people in Shevet Yosef than any of the other tribes. And therefore, they actually have more people in the end at Har Gerizim. So now they say, how do we know they were so large? Shene'emal. In Sefer Yoshua, it says, "V'yidibru b'nei Yosef al Yoshua lemor, madua natata lanu nachala goral echad v'chevel echad v'ani am rav." Why did you give us just one portion? We're such a large people. V'yomer alehem Yoshua im am rav ata alei lecha hayar. If you're such a huge nation, then go to the forest. It's not clear why he's telling them to go to the forest. So the drashot is Amar lahen. What he really told them was lechu v'hirbu atzmechem b'ya'arim. Go hide yourself in the forest. Why? Shelo tishlot bachem ayin hara. If you're so great, you have so many people, you're going to cause other people to look at you with an eye and cause you to have an ayin hara. What is an ayin hara? Ayin hara is usually when people are jealous of you, and then it causes sometimes bad things to happen to you. That's the belief, the superstition of it. That if people are looking at you and saying, "Oh, you have so much," could be it'll get taken away from you. So the ayin hara is going to get you, so you better hide yourselves, because if you're bragging about how you're so great, you shouldn't really brag about it, you should hide it. Amrule, they said to him, what are you talking about? We're above the ayin hara. How so? Zare de Yosef lo shalta be'ein abisha. The children of Joseph are not subject to ayin haras. We're above that. How do we know this? Dichtiv in the brachot. We're now going to have two explanations of how we know they don't have ayin hara. It says one is in the brachot that Yaakov gives to Yosef in Vayechi when he gives to all the tribes. It says ben porat Yosef, ben porat alei ayin. So what is alei ayin? Amar Rabbi Eival, alti kore alei ayin ela ole ayin. They go up above the ayin, meaning they override the ayin hara. There is no ayin hara for the sons of Yosef. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Kahane, Amar Mehacha, he brings a different proof, which is from the bracha that Yaakov gives to the sons of Yosef, very famous, V'yidgu larov b'kerev haaretz, right, and Hamalacha goel oti, right, it says V'yidgu larov b'kerev haaretz, which also, by the way, sounds like they're going to be plentiful, which goes back to what we said earlier. But also, they say, like dagim, ma dagim shabayam, mayim machasim alehem ve'en ayin sholeter behem, just like the fish in the sea, people can't see them, right? You look in the water, you don't usually see the fish. They're all the way, especially if they're really deep. You don't see them. So the eyes can't see them, meaning the evil eye can't get to them. Okay, so that was an aside that we just talked about this issue of, we got here because we wanted to show what we were talking about, how we know that there were more, what hachetzio means. The hachetzio at Har Eival was less than the chetzio at Har Gerizim, because Yosef was so great. From there we got to, how do we know Yosef is great? And from there we got to the response of Yoshua to Yosef saying we need more land, basically telling him go to the forest. What did that mean? Well, avoid the ayin hara, which Yosef's son said, we don't get, ayin hara doesn't come to us. And we saw two explanations for that. Now they go back to something mentioned in the braita, and then we'll get back to Yosef. And we'll finish up our daf, basically darshaning all sorts of stories about Yosef. What do you mean there are 50 letters in the efod? There's really 49, 50 minus 1. So, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Yosef hosifulo ot echad. Yosef got a letter added to him, and this is why we're going to get off on Yosef. He got a letter added to his name, Shenemal edut bihosif samo b'tzeto al eretz Mitzrayim. So he got this extra hey added to his name when he went out on to the land of Egypt. Matkifla Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says, no way, no how. It can't be that they added this hey to Yosef's name on the efod, because what did we learn? The way they were born. That wasn't his name from birth. You're supposed to put on the names from birth. So they say it's not the extra hey in Yosef, it's actually Binyamin. Okay, if you're not looking inside, you won't understand this. Binyamin is spelled bet nun yud mem nun. Okay, so mem nun without a yud. Okay, kula binyamin ktiv without a yud. V'hacha binyamin shalem. But they added the yud at the end, because it could be written in both ways. They added the yud at the end on the efod. And with that, they got to 25. Kidichtiv, and then 25, you get to 50. Kidichtiv va'aviv karalo b'yibin. And why is that? Because when he was named, his father called him Binyamin. Okay, so what do you see? And there it's written with a yud. And that's why on the efod it's written with a yud, even though the rest of the Torah it's written without a yud. I didn't check if it's really true that in the whole Torah it's written always without a yud. I don't know, but they seem to be saying that here. Now we're going to get to something which is going to also kind of take us to the end of the page, or to most of it. Yosef shekidesh shem shamayim b'setel sifu alav ot echad mishmosh lakadosh baruch hu. They're now going to go back to this extra hey, and they say Yosef, who you say sanctified the name of God in secret. They added an extra letter to his name from the name of God. That's the hey. But Yehuda shekidesh shem shamayim b'parhesia. But Yehuda, who sanctified the name of God in public, he nikra kulao al shmo shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. His name has the yud hey vav hey in it, right? The shema meforash. So you see here that Yehuda was even greater. So we're going to figure out now, where did Yosef kidesh shem shamayim b'setel secretly, and where did Yehuda mekadesh shem shamayim b'farhesia? Yehuda, we're going to have to wait till tomorrow. We'll only get started on at the end of our daf, but it's mostly in tomorrow's daf. So Yosef Mai, where do we have this with Yosef? In the Potiphar's story with Potiphar's wife. So now we're going to have a whole explanation of the story with Potiphar's wife, according to one particular explanation here. Dichtiv. So according to the pasuk, what happened? Yosef came home to do his work. Rabbi Yochanan says, from here you learn, says to do his work. He wasn't really coming to do his work. He was actually coming to to sleep with Esha Potiphar, Potiphar's wife. How do we know this? Well, we're going to see. There's some debate, Rav and Shmuel, about this. One said he was really coming back to work. And the other one said he was going to actually try to sleep with Potiphar's wife. Going back to the Psukim, okay, something strange. There was nobody else in the house at the time. House of this evil person is like this huge mansion. What? There was nobody there. They had all these servants, everything. Well, what happened? Tana de Rabbi Yishmael. Oto hayom, Yom Edam haya, was their holiday. They all went to their idol worship place. V'hi amra lahen cholai. And she said to them, listen, I'm sick, I'm staying home. Amra, she said to herself, this is the perfect day to sleep with Joseph because everyone will be out and I can sleep with him. Now, according to this story, he wanted it also, and that's why he came home as well. But she grabs him on his cloak, on his shirt to say, Bo'tasha'a. So now what happened here? What if Yosef really intended to sin, but he didn't in the end? How did he stop himself? Well, Bo'tasha'a bata juknosha lavivin ratalo b'chalon. Okay, maybe he was looking at Potiphar's wife, and there was a window behind, and in the reflection of the window, he sees his father's image, like an image of his father. Amarlo, and the image starts talking to him. Yosef atidin achecha sheyikatvu alafnei efod v'ata b'nehem. In the future, your brothers are going to be written on the avnei efod, which we were talking about today, and you're going to be with them. Do you want your name to be erased from there and you'll be called a shepherd of prostitutes? Dichtiv, as it says, right? Those who flock after prostitutes will lose all their wealth, and then you won't be ending up on this avnei efod. Miyad, immediately, and now we're going to quote a pasuk. We're going to darshan the different parts of the pasuk. I'll read the whole thing, which is also part of the blessings that Yaakov gives to Yosef at the end of Sefer Breshit. So it says here, Vateshev be'etan kashto, he sat with the strength of his bow. Vayafozu zor'ei yadav, okay, which is not so clear, but yafozu, like they spread out. The zor'ei sounds like zera. We're going to talk about this. Is going to be meaning semen. And yadav, something about his hands. We're going to see through his hands. Midei abir Yaakov, from the night Yaakov, right? Night with a K. Misham ro'eh Even Yisrael, and from there he ends up leading the Even Yisrael, okay, the stone of Israel. So let's explain this. Batasha be'etan kashto, amar Rabbi Yochanan mishum Rabbi Meir sheshava kashto le'etana. In other words, his keshet, meaning his private part, right, his male sexual organ, went back to its strength, meaning he was ready to sleep with her. Okay, he was erect. Vayafozu zor'ei yadav. So what did he do when he realized he saw Yaakov? He basically put his hands, na'atz yadav bekarka. He stuck his hands into the ground so that the blood would brush away from private parts into his hands. Okay, this is a little unrealistic, but that the semen, instead of going out there, it came out through his hands. And that's the way they understand these words by afozu zorei yadav. Again, I think this can be understood figuratively, right? That again, the blood rushed to his hands, which prevented the semen from coming out where it was going to. Midei abir Yaakov. So again, mi garam lo shechakek alavnei efod el abir Yaakov. Who was the one who caused this all to happen? Yaakov, because again, he saw Yaakov's image in the window. Misham ro'eh Even Yisrael. Misham zachavana ase ro'eh, became a leader of the Jewish people. Shneimar ro'eh Yisrael ha'azina noheg katzon Yosef. Okay, it's a pasuk which connects Yosef with the ro'eh of Yisrael, and therefore he ends up becoming a leader. So what you see here is this version of the story says, even though we call Yosef tzaddik and he stood up to the temptation, but he actually, according to this version, he wanted to do it in the beginning, but then he stopped himself, and it was Yaakov who really stopped him. And Yaakov wasn't really there, but he saw some image of his father that was kind of telling him, almost like your, the counter in your head, like thinking, oh, my father would never approve of this. Okay, next. Tanya. Yosef, let's say mimenu yud bet shvatim, k'derech sheyatzum Yaakov aviv. He was like his father. He really should have had 12 tribes, but 12 sons. Shenemal ele toldot Yaakov Yosef. It's not really the way the pasuk reads. The pasuk is ele toldot Yaakov, and then it says Yosef was 17 years old. But the way they understand it is, Ele Todot Yaakov Yosef, meaning these are the children of Yaakov, and Yosef, meaning Yosef is like Yaakov in terms of he should have had 12 children. Ella, but what's the problem? Why didn't he have 12 children? Because of this story. Ella because his semen went out through his fingernails, therefore he ends up getting punished that he doesn't. Once again, because he wanted to do it, he gets punished that he's not going to now have 12 children. But he gets something instead. Okay, so between Yosef and Yaakov, they have Yosef and Binyamin, they have 12 children. Yosef has 2, Binyamin has 10. So we're going to see now that not only did he, right, so it's kind of that Binyamin had the children instead of him, and they all become named for Yosef. Okay, you'll see Binyamin names his children after Yosef. And now we're going to go through each of those names. They don't quote them all now, but they're going to quote them all right now. Bela is because he was swallowed up between the nations, because he ended up in Egypt, right, becoming one of the land there. Ubechel b'chor li'imo. He was the b'chor li'imo. He was the eldest of his mother. Va'ashbel shesheva'o el. That God took him into captivity. Right, he ends up in jail. Gera shegar ba'achsaniot. He lived in different places. Right, he kind of hopped around and didn't have a real home. Naaman shena'im biyotel. He was very pleasant. Achi varosh. Those are another 2. Achihu v'roshihu. He's my brother and he's my leader. Mupim v'chupim. That's a funny one. Mupim v'chupim both sound like chuppah. So they say, what Binyamin is saying is, he wasn't in my chuppah and I wasn't in his chuppah, right? We didn't live together during those years. The ard, sheyarad leben ha'umot ha'olam. Ard from the language of yarad. Okay, he went down to be among the other nations. Some people say Ve'ard is actually not from Yarad, but from Vered, which is a rose. Shepanav domim levered, that his face was like a vered. Okay, next. Amar Rabbi Chiya bar Abba amar Rabbi Yochanan. B'sha'a she'amar leParo liYosef u'biladecha lo yarim ish et yado. When basically Paro made Yosef a big leader in Mitzrayim, he had some backlash from some of the people. Amru itzdagnine Paro, right? Those who look into the stars. They said to him, Eved shelakachol rabo be'esrim kesef tamshileo alenu. You're going to take a servant that was sold, right, to his master for 20 kesef. You're going to make him a ruler upon us. Amar lahem ginunei malchut ani roeh bo. I see that he's got potential for malchut, for kingdom. Right? He's destined for greatness. Amru lo im ken yehi yodeh b'shivim lashon. Well, if so, then he has to understand 70 languages. We talked about this the other day. We talked about the Aramaic, that obviously Gabriel knew Aramaic because he taught Yosef 70 languages, which include Aramaic. So, Gabriel, and he taught him 70 languages, but lo hava kagamar. Yosef just wasn't good at picking up languages. It wasn't working for him. Now we know where we're getting here, because it's again about adding a letter to his name. So they added a letter of his name of God to his name, a letter from the name of God to the name of Yosef. Vilamad, and then he was successful. How do we know this? So now you're gonna see how they darshan this pasuk. Edut biosif samo b'tzeito al eretz Mitzrayim. Right, this is a pasuk from Tehillim where they learn this thing about Yosef. So now they say it's b'tzeito al eretz Mitzrayim, which is exactly what we're talking about when he went to go become a ruler in Mitzrayim. Spat lo yadati eshma, a language I didn't know, I learned. So now they say that's the shivim lashon, that he couldn't figure it out before, but then because he got that K, it enabled him to learn all those languages. Now we get into another interesting part of this story. So Paro basically tests him out in all the 70 languages, and any language Paro talks to him in, he's able to respond. But Yosef then flips it on Paro. This, by the way, shows that Lashon HaKodesh wasn't part of the 70 languages. We talk about the Shivim Umot, right, and then 70 languages. It's in addition to the Jewish people, in addition to Hebrew. So Ishtailu b'Lashon HaKodesh. So Yosef starts talking in Hebrew. Lo avakayada mai hava amar. Paro didn't understand a word. Amar le egmere. He says, teach me. Egmere. So he teaches him. V'lo gama. Paro couldn't get it. Couldn't pick up on Hebrew. Amar le ishtabali de lo magali. So he says to Yosef, this is similar to the style of story like when Yosef went, when Paro goes to the Ur in the morning, he went to go to the Ur early in the morning to urinate because he couldn't do it during the day. He didn't want people to think he was human, so here he can't show any sort of weakness. So he says, swear to me that you won't tell anybody that I couldn't learn the Hebrew language. So Ishtabale. So he swears, he takes an oath, and yes, I promise I won't tell anyone. Ki amarle avihi shpiani lemol. Wet now. Here we're going to come back and see why the Midrash said this. Because later, when Yosef goes to Paro and says, listen, my father made me take an oath that I was going to bring him back to Israel to bury him. Amarle zil itchel. Paro didn't want him to leave. So Paro says to him, listen, sorry, but undo your oath. You can go ask, go to your chachamim, ask them to undo your oath, and then you'll be fine, and you won't bury him there, and we'll undo the oath. Don't worry. Just because you have an oath doesn't mean anything. Amarle v'ichel nami adidach. He says, fine, I'll go and undo that vow to my father, but at the same time, I'm going to undo the vow I made to you. And then I'm going to tell everybody that you don't know Hebrew. He was basically blackmailing him. So what happened? Even though Paro didn't really want it, if you notice, what is Paro saying? This is probably why they're darshaning it. He says, go bury your father like he made you swear. Basically saying it's all because of the oath, and all because of the oath, not just because you made an oath to him, but even if you want to get rid of it, you're not going to, because then you'll get rid of the other oath, and then you'll tell everybody, and I don't want that to happen. So in the end, begrudgingly, he allows Yosef to go. Okay, last part for today, Yehuda Maihi. We're just going to start this. So where was Yehuda? This was all we got to, because we said that Yosef is Mekadesh Shem Shamayim, and that's why he gets this hey added to his name. But Yehuda, from when he was already born, had the name of God in his name, because, again, obviously, this isn't chronological, but this is saying that he was Zoche to have God's name in his name, because he was Mekadesh Shem Shamayim b'farhesia, in public. So, Maihi, where did he do this? Did Tanya, Haya Rabbi Meir Omer, Shamdu Yisrael al Yam, when they were on Yam Suf, we're back to splitting of the sea. Hayu Shvatim Netzchim Zeim Zeh. The tribes were all fighting with each other. Zeh Omer Ani Yorei Tchila Aliyam, Zeh Omer Ani Yorei Tchila Aliyam, right? Each one saying, I'm going to go first, I'm going to go first. And then stop here, and we'll see the continuation of the story. Even though you all think that it was Nachshon from Shevet Yehuda, we're going to see there's more than one opinion about this, and not everybody thinks it was Nachshon. In fact, the first opinion is it's not Nachshon ben Aminadav, but obviously they're going to bring that to show it was Nachshon ben Aminadav who jumped into the water first. And that's why he was Mekadesh Shem Shamayim in public. Okay, that's it for today. We're going to do a quick review. So we had at first a list of all the miracles that happened on that day when they crossed over the Jordan. We had the whole long list. Then we got into this Chetzio, Veha Chetzio. And what did we learn from that? We thought we learned from there to the efod. We said, no, the efod is definitely a different order. And then we basically come back to, it's teaching you that there were more people on Har Gerizim than there were at Har Eival. And that was because Yosef was so great. They had so many people. And then we went off on a tangent about Yosef. And now we had so many more people. And then we talked about the 50 letters. Was it from the Hey added to Joseph's name? No, in the end, it's the Yud from Binyamin. From when he was named, he had a Yud in his name at the end. And then we end up with this whole thing about the name of adding the Hey and why he got a Hey added, why Yehuda had the name of God. And then from there, we got into the story of Yosef and Eshet Potiphar with Rabbi Yochanan's version that he really actually was interested in sleeping with her to begin with, but held himself back. And they showed all sorts of references to this in the Psukim. From there, we got up on a few other things about Yosef, and then we got back to Yehuda and at least asked the question, which is, where do we know he sanctified God's name in public? And we'll have to wait for tomorrow to get the answer. Wishing everybody a great day.